Boy, oh boy, does time fly fast, doesn't it? It sure does. And such was the case for, sadly, the final episode of the animated series for Star Trek. Time flew backwards in this, in a weird about way, for the counterclock incident. So Kirk's flying along, and they introduce the only appearance, as far as I know, I think so, of this character, who was the first captain of the Enterprise, meaning the Enterprise that Kirk is commanding, with Kirk being the third captain to command it after Pike. So this was Robert April. Now James Doohan is doing the voice. His wife Sarah, who apparently was the doctor during April's command, that was voiced by Nichelle Nichols for this purpose. You know, it saves money. And April's about to retire. He had been this, ambassador emeritus or something like that for the Federation. And his career was coming to an end. There was a mandatory retirement, so they were going to go celebrate that on the planet Babel. That's where all the ambassadors go. When suddenly there's this, they just want to go check out this supernova, and there's this ship traveling at warp 33, heading right for it. And Kirk attempts to rescue. They say, "What is this, a suicide mission?" And they make contact with the person flying the ship, and it's this woman, but she talks backwards. And they're like, "What's this about?" The ship, despite the Enterprise putting a tractor beam on it, they can't slow it down that much, and it actually ends up dragging the Enterprise into the supernova. And they try to disengage it, but they can't. And so in they go through the supernova, and suddenly they're in, I guess, the antimatter universe, where space is all white with stars being black. And they travel backwards, so the ship is going backwards and all this stuff. And then they start to eventually notice that time goes backwards as well, as they talk with the captain of the ship, and she tells them what she thinks happened. And they go to her planet, Arirat, or something like that. It's Terra spelled backwards, which just means Earth. And so that's basically what it is. This is the antimatter universe version. So it's yet another parallel universe, only it's really messed up. So another universe to stack on the top of all the multiverse that can happen. And but they're going backwards, and that means they start to grow young. So she takes them to my son, the scientist, and they're like, "What, a child?" Because she's looking very young. Well, her son's very old because, well, they go backwards. How does that happen? And where does it end up? Yeah, you don't want to know. So they don't really get into that, thank God. So the only way to go back is they need to have another supernova. So they look at the map of the galaxy and they find one, and they say, "Okay, we'll go." They're going to need I forget what her name is now. The alien ship to go and just have the Enterprise dragged by tractor beam again to go through it. But the problem is, with time going backwards, they're all turning into kids, and so slowly but surely they all become kids. Spock's the last one to lose his, maturity. He's just like a teenager by the end. But then Robert April and his wife, well, they're all young again. So then Robert April has to take command of the Enterprise and guide it through, and they get back. But the crew are all still, they're babies now. And oh no, what do you do? They're going to snap back to normal now, but it could take years. No, they remembered something they did in one of the earlier episodes. They just, don't worry, they got their patterns programmed in the transporter. We'll just restore them to the way they were. Which again, transporter is the power of God. And then for no apparent reason, Sarah's like, "Hey, Robert, we could stay young and relive our lives again." And he said, "No, that's not right. We're going to go back to our..." What? There's no reason for them to do it. By the way, you too could go into the transporter and cure your aging. So, and they go back to being old. Okay. So, probably not the best of ways to end on this. The animated series had some good concepts in them, and some of the episodes are not that bad. They're pretty good. The others are just, they're just revisiting, hey, whatever happened to so-and-so from the old show, and they would do that. Of course, a Harry Mudd episode, which is it's understandable. And some of that stuff, maybe it would have happened had they continued on with the series and it hadn't gotten canceled, and one could conclude that. But others were just, it's a short show. It's a Saturday morning show. It's slapped on there rather quickly and probably wasn't taken as seriously as it might have should have been. But this one does not. It's how does this all work? And I mean, the other universe where they're backwards. It's like, nah, I don't think so. Especially, I mean, what you go backwards, so your birth is in reverse, and how disgusting that would be. But at the same time, what are you, just like a rotting corpse on the floor and that comes to life? I don't know. So, but that was it, But at least it's significant because that's your only appearance of Robert April, the first captain of the Enterprise. Which, well, there's a prequel, huh? And the romance between him and Sarah, the doctor. And, well, they kind of sort of suggested that for Next Generation with Beverly and Picard, but never really got around to resolving that. But no more prequels. No more prequels. So I guess that's it for poor Robert April, man. But because I think the clock is running out on the current iteration of Star Trek, with what just a colossal waste of money, really. But so that was it for the animated series, and then there was interest because the fandom really saved Star Trek, and with the original series and syndication, it was gaining a whole new audience, and so there was a real market there to restore the show. And that's what they were going to do. They'd already hired some people. They had some sets put together. They were doing some test shots and costume fittings. Leonard Nimoy didn't want to come back, but they had everybody else. And it was going to be called Star Trek Phase 2. But then a funny thing happened on the way to the pilot. Some silly little sci-fi movie came along called Star Wars. And Paramount said, what have we got that can do that? And they said, well, we're working on this Star Trek thing. All right, cancel the TV show and make it a movie. And so we will soon get to the Star Trek, the motion picture, and all that it entails.